Indie horror is in such a bad place right now. No, not in a it's too scary way, in a please stop making this way. I recently saw a trailer for this game called Pinata Puppy World, and this to me was incredibly disappointing to see. This game is just another mascot horror with a generic Five Nights at Freddy's looking character who chases you down a liminal space. Oh, I just get so scared of images of empty places. This image will scar me for life. That's horrifying. Wow. But to play devil's advocate, even if this is a very uninspired game that just mashes together whatever's trendy, it is visually impressive. They're really pushing Unreal Engine to its full potential here. But it's not just Pinata Puppy World. Every time you turn around, there's another game with a colorful furry chasing you through an abandoned fun center. But indie horror used to mean something. It used to have substance and wasn't just a scummy cash grab. And today I want to talk about that. Even as a guy who doesn't like horror too much, I get scared pretty easy. There are three things I feel like a good indie horror game needs. 1. Scary. It needs to be scary, obviously. 2. Original. It needs to be unlike any other. 3. Needs to actually be fun. Many modern mascot horror games fail terribly at all three of these things. So let's break down what makes a good indie horror and why bad indie horror just ends up feeling like a YouTube Kids content farm's wet dream. Alright, before we talk about indie horror, let's set the stage. What even is indie horror and how is it different from big budget horror? Well, imagine horror games are like movies. Big budget horror is like The Conjuring. It's got Hollywood money, big name actors, and it looks good. Indie horror, that's like the Blair Witch Project. Low budget, no fancy effects, but due to those limitations, it has the potential to be way scarier. Faith! I love Faith, baby. Great game right here. Imagine being in a world where every single pixel is staring into your soul, where your only weapon is a cross. Now, some people say Faith would be a lot scarier if it was 3D. No! The pixelated graphics make it look like a lost MS-DOS game from 1987. But that's the trick. It feels ancient, cursed, like something you shouldn't be playing. The low-resolution art forces your brain to fill in the gaps, and your brain will make it worse. And those rotoscoped animations, they feel so strange and unnatural, like a mimicry of human movement, as if the game itself is possessed by a demon. Faith doesn't need cheap jump scares every 2 seconds. It doesn't need a big wacky mascot like Mickey Mouse began a killing spree. It uses silence, tension, and cryptic storytelling to make you deeply uncomfortable. And that's the difference. Good horror makes you feel unsafe and vulnerable. Bad horror makes you feel like you're watching an ad for a plush toy. Now, I love Faith for its simple graphics and distorted audio, and I could go all day talking about the genius of Faith, but I have to move on. How about Darkwood? Darkwood doesn't have jump scares at all. It doesn't need them. It makes you terrified at the mere concept of nightfall. It's a top-down survival horror game where you scavenge for supplies, board up your hideout, and pray that whatever's out there doesn't get in. And when the sun goes down, that's when the game truly begins. The monsters in Darkwood are barely monsters. They're shadows, whispers, silhouettes in the fog. Your mind makes them scarier than they actually are, and that's what's brilliant. Now compare that to something like Poppy Playtime, where the horror is, oh no, this big blue guy is chasing me. The fear isn't real, it's just aggression. It's not atmospheric, it's obnoxious. It's like getting chased by a Furby on steroids. Now let's talk about Iron Lung. A game that takes place entirely inside a submarine, a tiny submarine at the bottom of an ocean of blood. This is a great example of limitations of a low-budget game allowing to make it scarier. Your job is to take photos of something down there. Do you know what's in the blood ocean? No. Do you want to know? Also no. That's what makes Iron Lung terrifying. It's all about dread. You're completely trapped, blind to the world outside, hearing only vague noises that imply something is down there with you. Meanwhile, in bad indie horror land, you've got Banban, a game that just shoves weird mascot monsters in your face. No build-up, no tension, just, look at this guy. It's not horror, it's just visual noise. Let's be real, the original Five Nights at Freddy's, the OG mascot horror, it was actually a really good horror game. When the first FNAF dropped in 2014, it was fresh. It was a unique spin on horror games. You weren't running around with a gun, you weren't hiding in a closet, you were just sitting there, powerless, watching through cameras, waiting for something to move. It was tense. It made it terrifying through anticipation and limited control. The horror came from watching those dead-eyed robots slowly creeping towards you while you scrambled to conserve power. Just like Iron Lung, this game uses its limitations to increase the fear, and it's actually a genius game. But then, the internet happened. See, Five Nights at Freddy's didn't just succeed, it exploded. YouTubers made it their whole personality, the lore got more tangled than a 90-hour JRPG, the series itself became less about fear and more about Easter eggs and theories. And while FNAF still had some solid design choices, it also spawned an entire genre of soulless imitators that completely missed the point. Even the sequels turned out to be poop, especially after Scott Cawthon stopped making them.
Freddy, you're supposed to be on lockdown.
Here's where things get stupid. After Five Nights at Freddy's, people realize something. You don't need to make good horror to go viral. You just need a creepy but marketable mascot, a weirdly deep lore for YouTubers to obsess over, the bare minimum of actual gameplay, and boom, suddenly we're drowning in horrendous games like Poppy Playtime, Banban, and the aforementioned Pinata Puppy World. These games all follow the same formula. You're in an abandoned place. There's a big, colorful, friendly-looking mascot, or multiple mascots, that are actually evil. Said mascot is chasing you in a scripted chase sequence. There's vague lore flying around, teasing a bigger mystery. This isn't horror, this is marketing. They are designed for YouTube reactions. They don't build tension, they don't create genuine fear, they just throw a wacky monster in your face and go, boo! Go buy the plushie now. Here's the thing. Five Nights at Freddy's worked because it understood tension. It made you feel powerless but engaged. These new mascot horror games, they're just aggressive. They throw loud noises, jump scares, and spooky mascots at you without actually making you feel scared. It's like eating a whole bag of candy and wondering why you feel sick instead of satisfied. Meanwhile, games like Faith, Darkwood, and Iron Lung understand dread. They get that horror isn't just what you see, it's what you imagine. It's the silence, the buildup, the feeling that something is wrong. Mascot horror doesn't want to scare you, it wants to sell you something, and that's why it sucks. Alright, here's where things get real weird. Most of these mascot horror games, they're for kids. Think about it, who actually gets scared by a giant colorful stuffed animal with human teeth? I wouldn't say many adults would, it's mostly going to be children, and these games know it. That's why they slap together some scary but goofy monster, drop vague lore hints, and flood the internet with merch before the game even releases. Look at Poppy Playtime. Before the first chapter was even published, they were basically already selling these Huggy Wuggy plushies, and I see these everywhere. Banban, same deal. It's not about making a quality game or even something that creators are passionate about. It's about selling toys to kids. Anyway, you can like and subscribe if you want to. I'm gonna go play Faith now. Have a good day. Bye-bye.